Okay, guys, we are live on YouTube as well.
Okay, shall we start, or you're
yes,
ready
we
for
could start.
Lalita? Huh? Okay, all right.
I will try to call Lalita once more, but you carry on.
Thank you all for joining. First of all, I think we should keep this.
Okay, guys, we are live on YouTube as well.
Okay, shall we start, or you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
We'll start.
Okay, go ahead.
You folks, yeah. Okay. So anyway, thank you all for coming. We must try and keep the community going. Today we have Vicky volunteering. Thank you very much, WICKREMACHANDRAN. Vicky, I called Vicky. We haven't got some interesting speakers. We did not have until Vicky said he'll volunteer. So I do appreciate it, Vicky, for jumping in and helping us. And we're going to listen to him. So take over, Vicky, and we'll take it from there.
I hope it's not far boring to you all.
No. I told WICKREMACHANDRAN, so long as he talks about his sex life, we'll be all right.
That's what. Which one?
Good.
Yeah. No picture.
You're muted, Majan.
Yeah, wait. Right. I'll tap this. Yeah, I start off with my childhood. Now you can see me as I was born. I was born in Jaffna. And then here the next one, I'm with my elder brother, Harry. Yeah, those are my parents, my mom and dad. My dad was, he studied in Manchester, in Edinburgh. He's a doctor. He died in Edinburgh and he did his surgical fellowship there. And then returned to Sri Lanka and got married to my mother. She was born in Malaysia, but she was sent to Colombo because there were no good schools in Colombo, in Malaysia, and she studied in St. Clair's Convent in Bumblebee. She's quite fluent in all three languages. Anyway, that is my grandparent, my grandfather, my mother's father and mother. He had a very successful, he was a doctor in Malaysia. I think very successful practitioner there. And he returned to Sri Lanka, built a house in Jaffna, and then it had a tennis court, a bar. He was 6 foot tall and quite pleasant. Then he bought a few houses down the same street and settled his siblings down that street. And quite a generous man. So what happened is, as I grew up, I was asked to go to the initial part of my school days was difficult for my parents because I refused to go to school. So my father resigned from work for the government service and he wanted to go private. And he came to Colombo and we were living in Borel near Wesley College, and I was made to enter Wesley College. That's what it is. We lived behind Wesley College at that time. My primary education started at Wesley College, Colombo. And later, after some time, my dad decided to go to Colpity and he bought a house down CV Avenue in Colpity. That's the first street that comes off Gold Road in Colpity. And we lived there. My father lived there till he retired. And he was in private sector right throughout in Colombo. Because when it was difficult to travel, Wesley College is a baseline road. And then you had to travel all the way to Gold Road. It's a long, we were 6-7 years old, my brother and I. Difficult, we had to catch buses. And so he decided to take off from the Wesley College and sent us to Jaffna, his old school. That's the Jaffna Central College. And we were boarded there. I was 6, 7 years old, and the principal was Reverend Smith. He was an Australian guy, and he used to wear white trousers and shirt with stockings, which after coming to Australia, I found that the normal national kit of the Australians, you know. And I know Karunian's dad is also Reverend Arulananda, was the principal of St. John's College in Jaffna, you see.
He was a good friend of Smith, and I met Dr. Smith, Reverend Smith, many times.
Yeah, he was
They
a,
were
he was a very nice man, yes. And after some time, my brother didn't like Jaffna Central College. And then my dad took us and put us in Hartley College, Point Petru. Now, Point Petru, I'm sure you all know where it is, the northernmost point of Sri Lanka, opposite Dondra. Dondra is the southern point, and Point Petru is the northernmost point of Sri Lanka. And the school is there, and that's the church. And this all rebuilt after the upheaval. There, all army came and all destroyed the whole school. There was no school when the army occupied. It all rebuilt after they left. And that's the Hartley College. And it molded. I remained in Hartley College till I entered university. I remained in Hartley College. Few things about Hartley College was it was a rural area, and the principal was more British orientated. You know, used to teach manners, to say yes, please, thank you, and all the students. Then in the hostel we used to have dinners once a month. Used to come fully dressed and how to use the crockeries and cutlery, and how to use banquet dinners and various things. It was taught.
And Mr. Purnamballe?
Yes,
Yeah.
he took a lot of care, like one you of Singapore, he took care of Point Petru. And the students were now, I'm sure, from the boys who come from, and also we had to read the book on etiquette. I don't think very many people read the book on etiquette. We all carried a book on etiquette, how to behave. Anyway,
Vicky, can I come in?
Yes.
During the war, everything was destroyed except the towers. The tower which was there stayed on.
Yes, you're right. You're absolutely.
That's got the bell which is for the church and for the school.
Yes, it's a Methodist college, Methodist school, yes. And it was rebuilt. It was erased to the ground,
Edwin also studied there, right?
Yeah. My whole education was there.
Edwin, you were at Hartley?
Yeah, I was your Harry's classmate.
Oh my God. How did I miss that?
I was the head prefect. You couldn't have missed me.
Are you joking?
Yeah, I was.
Oh, I can't remember anyway. Sorry.
All right.
Anyway, I used to play. I used to take part in sports, and I used to play cricket, soccer, and athletics. In soccer, I used to play for the left wing, and athletics, I used to do the middle distance, 440 and 880 meters. And cricket, of course, I used to open batting for, and I used to bowl left arm, medium pace, and then spin. And I was fortunate enough to be selected to represent all Jaffna combined school team, because our Hartley College was nowhere compared in sports. And it was we used to lose to most all of our matches, both in soccer as well as in cricket. But to be chosen, it was very encouraging. And Karunian, I know, has been chosen to play for all Jaffna combined 11 twice. And I know that he captained once, I think. While I'm there on cricket, I just want to digress a little bit. Is that this Karunian, St. John's used to play cricket with some Candy School in the latter part, isn't it?
Yeah, Kingswood.
And
Kingswood.
I think they were also planning to play with Columbus schools, I think St. Joseph's and all, before all these racial problems started.
Yeah.
And also at Hartley College, there was we were taught Sinhalese up to the eighth form. Mr. Somaratna was our school teacher, the Sinhalese teacher, you see. And James' boy was James, looking after our James. So there were, and also there used to be tea kiosk with what do you call bakeries, and they used to give this bun and tea that was quite popular in Japan, and they were well integrated, what I meant to say, before all these unnecessary problems came. Anyway, after Hartley, I entered the university, and the first year at the university was a bit eventful. I decided to go to Jaffna from Colombo at about 9 o'clock in the night. I ride in the bike and met with an accident about 40 minutes before home. And the guy who came with me also came. We both suffered serious injury. My leg was.
Did you bicycle? Did you bicycle back? Or motorbike?
No, motorbike. It was a DSA Golden Flash, a brand new bike. That was my bike bought on my birthday. Anyway, and eventually we were admitted to the hospital. I had basal skull fracture, unconscious for 2-3 days, and everything. So my dad said I might not escape. But my other person, he died. But I escaped, and then my dad took me home, took care of me, and then I returned to continue to come to Colombo. And when I got back, I was able to get a place at College House. Let me see. This is what, when I was a student, this is what I looked like when I was a student. Then the medical student days, that's what it is. And these are the College House boys. That is Padmanathan, Abesiri, Vijayaratna, Rajagunratna, Priyadasa, Yasena, Sachi, Vicky, and Kita. We will go on trips, and that is College House. It was a wonderful place. It was, as you all know, it was in the university area. And I remember College House because it was considered a decent hostel. The ragging was minimal. And when you go for meals, you have to be dressed. You can't go in your sarong, those things. The most important thing is they used to have these dancing classes every Saturday, because most of though it was a university hostel, most of the inmates were medical students, and there are a few engineering students and science students. And on Saturday, most of the people are from rural outside Colombo, from Kandy, Gaul, Jaffna. So dancing was not, ballroom dancing was not popular. But when you come to Colombo, it's in all social events, there's dancing, you see, ballroom dancing, not the shaking like now. So you have to know your steps, the foxtrot, quick step, the waltz and the jive and the whole works. So every Saturday evening, we used to have a 2-hour session for the freshers or the newcomers. And they used to get down girls from the science faculty and the hostel, and we used to have, eventually, most of the people who were interested, they became good dancers. There's a pedigree of dancing school, so we have to go and learn that as well. And also, most of the faculties in Colombo, science faculty, medical faculty, various faculties, they used to have their dinner dance once a year at KG Hall. So you must know your ballroom dancing, you see, otherwise not. So it was one of the things that boys in colleges could do. They could all dance very well, you see. And also the other thing was the St. Joseph's College pool was leased by the university, and we used to go swimming on weekends. That's where I learned to swim, and I continued to swim for the rest of my life after I learned swimming there, because after I passed out as a doctor, I used to go to SS pool and use the pool, and I could do all the strokes, freestyle, the crawl, backstroke, everything. And that remained as my major exercise, apart from running in the morning. So College House, the College House life was not only that. Yes.
You continue to have your motorcycle, right?
No, I crashed and I left it, and I don't know what happened. My dad disposed of the bike. And the wonderful
I
thing,
remember you on the motorcycle.
No.
So that
My
must have been
dad-
before the second year.
No, yes, at the first year. That was what I only had that for 10 hours. I wrote on the way and crashed, and that's the end of the bike. Then great thing about my dad, I didn't want to interrupt. When I was getting back to Colombo, he asked, do you want another bike? Parents won't ask that, you see. I said, no. Do you want a car? I said, no. What do you want? Do you want us to ship to Colombo? I said, no. And because before I entered university, my dad has decided to go to Jaffna, and my brothers and sisters were all entering the university at that time, and he could have been in Colombo, you see. But I asked him, why are you doing this? He said, you will understand my wisdom. And he was right. After a few years, all the riots and all the Tamil houses were burnt. So if you were in Colombo, our house would have been burnt, you know. Anyway, that's by the by. Then eventually, the medical student days, mostly I had some good friend, Hamid Menton Ismail. He's a tall, nice-looking, handsome chap. He can sing, he can dance, and he can entertain. So mostly there was the Eurasian crowd, the burgers were there. And it was very popular to go every weekend or something, you will have some house parties, end up in dancing and various things. And Hamid became popular. And he used to be invited to all these homes. So I used to tag on to him and go. And eventually, we virtually all our staying there ended up in parties and dancing. And also, these hotels had to have this. Friday night, you had to pay a table and you can go and dance. So I had some friends. My friends who became engineering faculty mostly, students like Chandra Jaivira, Sarath Kodagoda, and all my good friends. Eventually, I became part and parcel of Sarath Kodagoda's family. Virtually, I lived in their house. His father passed away and he took on the directorship of the company. And so you can use the company facilities of that. He let me use them very freely, like as though I was part of the company. So till I left Sri Lanka, I virtually lived in Sarath's house with his family. And I was called the Puta there. And the sisters used to call me Malli. And it was quite like my home, you know. All these troubles started. Generally, the people are very good. They are not obnoxious like what happened, you know. But once they are stirred up and all this trouble came, and there are no difference between any of us. It was a wonderful time at the time, you see. And once I finished our school, medical college life, one thing that attracted me at the medical college was one was Mr. Jayawardena. You all know how good he can draw that embryology. With the drawings I could follow, even now I can remember that embryology. Other one was Pat Kure, like how he taught us inflammation, acute inflammation. Polymorphic leukocyte was the main cause of inflammation, the target cell. And they taught us, they lectured us, not giving a dictation. That's what I liked, you know. Then once I finished medical studies, I did internship in Ragama. Of course, my good friend Maru and I worked in the pediatric department under Humphrey. And Salima was also in Ragama at that time. After I finished Ragama, when I was back in Colombo, infectious disease section, I worked for about a year or two. And then I became a SHO doing pediatric ENT. And then after that, I was in a cardiothoracic unit under the ATS 4. And then surgical intensive care unit. And then I became a demonstrator in the Department of Anatomy. And finally, I gave up government service and joined Gurdon's. So the hospital because while we were working, my good friend Sarath, who I was part and parcel of the house, he told me, BK, you better pack your bags better you leave this country and go. The reason is there are going to be problems in this country. And that was when I passed out as a doctor. And then I left. He said, you better leave. Those days you can go to UK. We were registered directly because our MBBS was accepted in UK, even New Zealand. But if you had to go to Australia or the United States, you had to pass a qualifying exam. So we all sat for the ECFMG. I had my ECFMG at that time, but I didn't want to go to United States. I was quite happy in Australia, in Sri Lanka. Then he told me, I thought of going to London. He said, why don't you go to USA? But anyway, I applied and got Coney Island in New York. I was on my way to go to New York because I left. He told me, but if you stay here, there are going to be communal problems here. It's very difficult for you to live here, he told me. And so I was on my way. I thought a round trip. I went to Singapore, then to KL, and from KL to Indonesia, and went to Darwin. It is what fate is. When I was in Darwin, I was offered a job in Darwin. And I took the job in Darwin. That is Darwin there. It's a very hot place. And it was a defense post because China, everything is on top. And mostly Air Force, Naval, and Armed Forces. And it's a service town. And there was a hospital. When I went there, the hospital was undemountable in Darwin. When I worked in Darwin, I thought I will be put in the main hospital, but they sent me to a place called Gove, 420 kilometers northeast of Darwin City. It was a fairly well-built hospital run by the Alice Swiss Company, it's a Swiss company. And I worked there, and because all my experience of working the intensive care and everything came in handy in a year to work. And I stayed there for a year. It was very lonesome. I was the only dark fellow in Darwin in Go, except the Aboriginals. But it gave me a chance because when you're there, you do aeromedical service, and so you travel from one point to Aboriginal communities in various areas. So we had to visit week by week. So they used to send me all this. So I had a fairly intimate knowledge of how these Aboriginals lived in their communities. They were at that time, they got used to drinking alcohol, smoking cigarettes, lot of lung problems, scabies, and they can't live inside a house. They were claustrophobic, and they lived outside. They used to have a bonfire, throw a kangaroo or whatever it is at the thing, and that's how they lived. They can't live in. If you build a house, they will never go in and live. So when they come to hospital and for illness, when they are brought in, they won't stay inside. They want to run out and stay under the trees. So I had some knowledge of the true Aboriginal live. They look like Sri Lankan, the Indian Sri Lankan. The rest of the Polynesians, they had to be built. In fact, there was a thing that these chaps would have come from Sri Lanka or India, subcontinent. Now I think when I look at history and geography, it could have happened anyway. After working in Go, they got me back to Darwin, and I was in Darwin Hospital. And when I was working there as a houseman, we were given small apartment to stay, and the next door apartment there was another guy who was studying, and I casually went, and he was doing some anatomy. I drew some diagram, and it was taken up because I had done as a demonstrator anatomy, and at that time I also used to go to the physiology lecture theatre and listen to the revision course like for me. And I was not aspiring to be a surgeon. For me, I want to be a GP. I didn't want to be beyond that. I had no ambitions. I was quite happy the way I was. But when this chap, he told me, that's nice, why don't you come and study with me? I told him, I'm not going to do surgery because he wants to do neurosurgery. So I had to go and study with him, and eventually, one day he told me, tomorrow is the exam, aren't you coming? I said, what for? He said, you are coming, I applied for you, and he had paid the fees for the exam. So I went for the exam with him, and Unfortunately, he failed and I passed. I didn't want to apply because I can write anything. I didn't bother. So I passed the exam. Because the interview and all, I didn't worry very much. But I said because I was not worried about the outcome of the exam. Then he said, well, Vicky, why don't you continue to study? There's an MRCO department coming because I want to sit for this primary again. So I continued to study. The same thing happened. But this time, because he said, sit for the exams, I sat. And I got the part 1 on MRCOG as well. Then eventually he passed the primary and I think he became a neurosurgeon. So because I had done ENT, I tried to get, there was an ENT surgeon because I could do cleft palate, tonsils, adenoids, the ear, mastectomies and all. I was well trained in Sri Lankan consultants are good. I was quite confident of what I can do. But this time he didn't want me for whatever reason. So I was not bothered. So I was aiming to become a GP. And I used to do early morning swimming. And this head of the obstetric department used to swim with me. When I chatted, casually, he realized that I have got my part 1 in. Why don't you come and join the department? He asked them to put me under his department. That's how I accidentally developed going to ONG, obstetrician gynae. And once I trained, he said, start writing your cases. I didn't know what he was up to. I was not interested in specializing. So I want to work in the hospital for a few more years. Actually, my intention was to get I want to bypass, as Sarat said, these communal riots will come and go, then you can come back. That was I want to get back to, for me, Sri Lanka was the destination. So I was there and he got me to write the cases and submit to him. So every case I did, I used to submit to that boss was good. Then he told me, you have enough of obstetric, this is recognized. Why don't you go down and do some gynae, because your gynae appointment is not recognized, and you can do the fellowship. So from Darwin, I went down south here to Sydney and then to Melbourne. And through my boss, I got good appointments and I did my gynae and obstetrics there. And then I passed the membership for obstetrics and gynae. And then I could have waited and in Sydney or Melbourne and worked, but it was cold, the temperature used to drop to about 8 to 10 degrees in the winter. So and here it's quite easier to work and I like Darwin. There are a lot of Ceylonese there, so I got back to Darwin. And from Darwin, because those days when you get your membership, by the way, while we are on the map, the whole of this area, central part of Australia, it's a desert. It's hot. Now, Alice Springs is here in the middle, almost the geographical center of, geometrical center of Australia is Alice Springs. Now, the thing, and rest of the area, this whole around the edge of this Australia is green up to this point. And the most green part is in Queensland, that's called Cairns. And it's fairly cool and nice. And the beaches and the thing are very nice, this area, all your beach, the vegetables, everything is grown in this part. This part, Western Australia, is where all the minerals and the things are coal and other things are dug out and sold. And most of the income comes from digging out from here and also this area. In Darwin, we had the uranium mining, gold mine, manganese mine, and the aluminium mining here. And those are the things that brought in a lot of money to Australia. But the weather conditions were terrible. Anyway, this way is about 4,000 kilometers from one end to the other. And that is about 2,500 from there to there. Usually you don't travel this way, you just come along the edges. And then if you want to travel, I had done this trip about 2 or 3 times with my wife and children on holidays. Anyway, driving in the car is very nice when you start from there and start coming down. It's good, you have a couple of weeks and you can travel. Anyway, from Darwin, and also the medical system in Darwin is, in Australia, hospital is there to train you, like I'm sure in the United States, UK. They train, and once you are trained, you have to leave the place. You are not employed there unless you are specialized. You get some staff appointments. Mostly, you are allowed to and set up your own practice. And there was private practice, and there was called Medicare system. And that is everybody, the government pays for your health, and you must have a Medicare card to get your health done in hospitals, government hospitals. But you can go to privately, then you have to have a private cover. Most of the people who qualified, they all preferred, when I was there at that time, to go private, become private doctors. And very few people want to work for the hospital, because income was very high when you're in the private sector. And also you have the independence, you are your own boss. Nobody tells you what to do. Particularly, you can't tell an Australian what to do. He'll put your two fingers up, So anyway, once I got my fellowship, it is a custom in Australia to go to either the UK or South Africa for further experience. I, like an idiot, I didn't think about it very much. And I applied and I went to University Hospital University of Hospital Cardiff for 2 years. I didn't enjoy that stay there because hardly anything I learned. In fact, instead of, if I had the current knowledge, I would have gone to Sri Lanka and not to Cardiff, because the experience that you gain in Sri Lanka is tremendous as compared to here. The professor used to go and I had to take his lecture and ward classes, and hardly any work was done, I left the department, professional department, and I went to another hospital close by, East Glamorgan Hospital, and worked there for a while. And then somebody phoned me one day and said, there's some vacancy coming in Darwin. So do you want to? So I had to go for an interview. So I left Cardiff and got back to Darwin. I got that job, and then I worked in the private sector and was a visiting medical officer to the hospital. And I worked there for about 20 years because I worked in the private sector and also in the hospital. I did 5 sessions. You had your own registrar and a resident for you. And the private hospital was adjoining the public hospital. And the work was quite good. But one thing I did was, I was fairly confident of the work that I did, because if you are competent in your job, you get your confidence, and you must be confident of your work, because there's a patient and especially in obstetrics, there are fit patients. You can't say, I'll just have a try with the forceps. When you take the forceps, you must be able to take the baby out. You don't say, I'll try. I never did that. When I had my hand on the forceps, I knew I can get the baby out. Because for that, I must thank, there's an obstetrician called Dr. Mounsey. He's one of the finest forceps deliverer I have seen. Those days, they have no epidural, only pudendal drop they give. If the mid cavity, pudendal drop won't work, he used to patient on the side and put there a sacral conus and sacral hiatus used to put a needle and give a local through that. If you do that, it freezes the pelvis, and now you can do your forceps without hurting it. Anyway, I don't want to go in the technicality of the forceps, but I learned very safe forceps delivery. And I also realized people talk about cervical dilatation. People never talked about vaginal dilatation. I learned it from him. Vicky, when you put the forceps and pull, the lower down vagina is not dilated. Don't just pull it out in one go. Just relax, let it dilate. Very beautiful techniques he taught me. And I did that, and I became very competent in forceps delivery because of him, because those vacuum extraction was not available then. And most of the people, either you had a forceps delivery or you did a Caesar. And especially Aboriginal patients, they have android pelvis. And if the baby gets stuck in the mid pelvis, now these registrars come from down south, from Melbourne and Sydney, and they think, this bastard, this variation, they have this, they have come out of Calabar shortly, I went there, they were free of color 4 years before I went. They think when you see a colored child, they think you also like the Aboriginal, your knowledge is not good. I had to tell them when the registrar comes, if it's an Aboriginal gets a mid cavity, before you do a vaginal process, call me. They don't call me, they get stuck. Sometimes the child is damaged because it's an Android pelvis. You can't get it out. If you stuck here, you will see on the Aboriginal mothers, Anyway, that's beside the point, it's a technical issue. Not only that, I enjoyed my work in Darwin as a professional thing because I was in the transient period, the old system was going, the new system, the laparoscope was coming in, ultrasound was coming in, cervical intraepithelial neoplasia was being found, laparoscopic surgery was coming in for diagnostic purpose. So you have to reorient all these things. And also this vaginal, we used to cut chunks out of prolapses and take that system was going out, and now you put suspension using tapes. Papa Petros was good at it. He's a Greek man. He was very good. He was from Western Australia here. So I take leave and I learned the technique from him. Then I used to invite back. When I went back to Darwin, I used to call him. You have to pay them. They used to come and stay at my place. And I used to learn all these techniques. I never used a technique with which I was not happy, which I did not understand. And I only used the technique when I thought it was good. I want to be competent in everything that I did. So because of that, I didn't have much problems working. And in fact, the registrars liked to work with me. And I was quite popular. And I didn't do it to become popular. That was my attitude. Because, and the other thing is, when you have private patients, there's fee charges. There is called the Medicare. Then the private, if you are private cover, the private, for each procedures, they will pay you. And says, for example, for obstetrics, the global fee for obstetrics, that is for antenatal care, delivery and postnatal care, my time it was $600. My colleagues used to charge $2,000. I never charged more than, I never charged any single patient more than, they don't have to pay out of the pocket. After all, the people in that area, they are no corporates and big business. We were soldiers and sailors and airmen and people who work for this other industry. They didn't have much money. I didn't want to drive a Mercedes-Benz or BMW. I was not keen on that. I want to see that these patients don't suffer because they had to pay for me. And I was not very popular with my colleagues. And the other thing I did in Darwin, I think most Sri Lankans would have done. For my primer, I was not an angel. My primary if I undertook a patient, I will see that the patient has a smile on the face, but it is now. That is my reward, not the cash. In fact, my receptionist and Lakshmi one day told Vicky, you are charging far too low. They think you are incompetent. I used to tell them the deal is between me and God. Though I am not worried what others think. They don't think I'm not competent. They don't have to come. But I had a lot of patience because of my attitude. And sometimes when there's a problem, they ring you. All my patients had my private number and telephone. I had told them, if you have any issue, please call me. So day or night, they call you. And sometimes, one day I walked into my surgery in the evening, and I found my receptionist saying, oh no, he's very busy. I asked Rosalind, what's going on? She said, you know, that operated patient is worried something not right. I said, can you leave the number and the name of the patient there? This receptionist told me, so you're going to see them? No, you just leave it on my desk. I want to talk to her. I got the thing and I visited the patient, you see. And they are normally, I'm not a great surgeon, but I hardly had much complications. So if anything happens, I used to visit. Darwin is a small place you can visit. I had free time, so I popped in and had a look at it. I was some serious discharge or something. Reassured. That's a great thing for the patient, you see. Otherwise, that patient had to go to the hospital, public hospital. She's paying for me privately, but yet go to public. That's the attitude in that time. Because of this kind of way that I treated patients, I had a lot of patients. I couldn't manage the amount of it because I hardly had a night's sleep. If I had one night's sleep, it's good. And when I got married and had children, I hardly was at home. If one night you can sleep without problem, it's a happy day for you, you see. So I used to get up early in the morning, go for a run on the beach, and then in the evening, if there's time, or twice or thrice a week, I used to do it. And from my surgery used to be on Wednesdays and Fridays. I start at about 1 o'clock, and about 9, 10 in the night. Then after you have to continue with your covering for the night, then etc. So life was fairly heavy, hectic place working in Darwin. Then after about 20 years in Darwin, I decided to close shop and move because of my education for my children. I moved to Queensland, and you can't get any job. You must have some extra qualifications and everything to work in city hospitals, teaching hospitals. So I got a job in another hospital called Harvey Bay, about 300 kilometers north of Brisbane. That was a more of a retirees village, and there was a I worked there for the following 20 years. Then I took a staff appointment here. I gave a private practice and I was just working for the hospital. And that gave me that opportunity because in Sri Lanka, when you get your specialization, you are supposed to go out of the country for 2 years, either to go to UK or Australia or anywhere and get a further, not training, they are supposed to go under observation. So most of these, something happened, they could go to UK. And some of my friends used to write, can you kindly organize a job for him? So they used to come. I was more than happy to take it. They are already fully qualified in Sri Lanka. They have passed the exams. And I know the Sri Lankan obstetric standard is very high. You know, they are used to all these things. So I was quite happy to have them. So we used to have 1 or 2 of these chaps come and work in Harvey Bay Hospital. Initially, when they came, they were not used to laparoscopic techniques, ultrasound and all, but they picked up very quickly. Subsequently, I think about 8 of them worked with me on my whole stay. The subsequently chaps who came, they were quite competent. In fact, there were other obstetricians and gynecologists. The nurses and the other patients used to prefer to go to these registrars because they were very good in their surgery. And all these guys, you can apply for the Australian fellowship. Initially, when they came, they were reluctant to give them the fellowship. But when they found, when they used to ask, have you done this procedure? One, they used to say, what one? I have done so many. It was so good. They were so good at it. Eventually, because of their performance, they didn't have to sit for any Australian theoretical exam. Only passed the Viva, and most of them were given the Australian fellowship. And 8 of them are now working as consultants all around Australia. I'm very so happy and very proud of them. You know, it was so nice because they are very competent doctors, and that is my happiness of working. Darwin gave me a personal pleasure of acquiring work, but in Harvey Bay, it helped because the registrars from Sri Lanka came. My work was less. I let them do if I'm on call. And if they are covering me, I hardly have to get up in the night. They do. I used to tell them, don't call me, just carry on. So that was the trust that I had in them, and they were wonderful guys, you know. Then after some time, about 7 or 8 years ago, I retired from Harvey Bay, that was there, and then came back to Brisbane. Now, that is where I'll start with my family life. When I came to Darwin, after I have finished my, obtained my obstetric training, obstetric and gynae, my membership there. I returned to Darwin, and I went on a holiday to Sri Lanka, and I stayed with Sarat, and we used to have parties. he dancing and all. So he invited this young lady here, who's my wife now, Lakshmi Gunawardhan. And from it's not a beauty, she was so nice when I met her. She was a very nice person, very gentle. She was a lawyer, about 10, 12 years younger than me. And she was working as a legal draftsman when I met her. She had an LLB, she had gone through the legal professional qualification as a lawyer. And she was working and waiting to be sent to UK for further training and drafting. You know, legal drafting is converting the Act of Parliament into one of law. And she was very keen. I was taken up, and I think usually we went out into Tabrapen for a dance. Usually we go on a group. We generally mix up partners and dance. But the whole night I was dancing with her. So when I dropped her and came back, I was staying with Sarah. What's going on here? You are hanging on to her. I don't. I was not going to get married. I was not interested in marriage. Neither was. I was not. As Carly had started saying, I was not interested in the sexual part of it. I like ladies. They add something to your life, you know. And even when I was there in Colombo and going on, we never misbehaved. And nice to have a lot of girlfriends, really true friends, you know. And so I liked her. Anyway, next day also, I think I asked her whether I can meet her for lunch. Took her out for lunch, and my 1 week was spent most of the time spending with her. And then I got back to Darwin, and I was getting interested now. It was a little lonesome, lonely living in Darwin alone, though you had other people. Now I have changed my mind. I think after seeing her, I thought I might see, and so I came back, and after 6 months, I took another 2 weeks leave, and I went back to Sri Lanka. I told Sarah that I was coming. I was talking to her, I used to write to her, we used to exchange. And eventually her father was a Supreme Court judge, and he died, and her mother was a doctor. And she had 2 sisters, and the mother brought them up. The earlier one was a doctor, and the younger one was, I think, got a first class in physical science, and she was a lecturer at the university. Anyway, I went and met her, and we were going out, and I casually asked her, what do you think? Can I propose to you? And I was shocked. She said yes, because she was young, she was pretty, she had everything. So that evening itself, we went home with her mother, and the mother was very nice. And she told me, if her father was alive, you Tamil boys had no chance with my daughters, because he wanted single. Anyway, I was lucky the father was alive, I suppose. And so I got married to her. And this is our wedding photo. I think her uncle was there, was the man. It was Christian wedding, but something the father got involved. And this is went to Darwin, and we had 2 children. That's my son, and that's my daughter, and my daughter's birthday or something. And in my professional life, I couldn't have had a better person than her. She changed my career. I used to smoke, and I used to not get drunk. I used to have alcohol. She never even once ever told me don't smoke. But I know, understanding her, I knew. Then little by little, after getting married, in a couple of weeks, I stopped my smoking. And she one day asked, what's happened to your cigarettes? I didn't want to say I stopped because of her, because she didn't like to smoke. Oh, you couldn't. Then little by little, I stopped because my profession is that drink. But if you even take in that little bit of alcohol, I stopped because of she was an ardent Christian, and I had never seen her go to bed. She's on her knees the night and the morning before she gets up. Every morning she reads. She's a very ardent Christian and a very nice lady, very soft, gentle lady. Anyway, it was my luck that she married, and she always looked if I had any problem. I used to discuss with her, and she used to discuss. And when I went to, from Darwin, when I went to, she worked as a, came to Darwin with me, because after when we got married, my idea was for her to stay in Sri Lanka and for me to get back, because she was waiting to be sent to UK, to Cambridge or somewhere for training. And I was also had to go to UK, so we found and met at UK. And my idea was to get back to Sri Lanka. I didn't want to stay in Darwin. So I told her, you will meet and you can come to Darwin and we'll meet halfway. That was our agreement. So after the wedding, the mother was quite happy with that. Her uncle was looking after her guardian. He called me one day and told me, aren't you taking Lakshmi when you go home? When you go to, I said, no, uncle. He said, you got a girl there? No, I don't. Are you sure? I said, yes, uncle. Then you better take her. No, I can't get the visa, I said. You won't believe this. That man, the uncle had been in United Nations and everything at work. And he knew the Australian embassy, Australian ambassador. We have gone and spoken to that chap. And one day I'm in the SSC club, I get a call saying, this is Mr. Paxton from the Australian embassy. Can you bring your wife's passport? So I went and got the passport and he franked and to go to Lakshmi. And he said, no. I said, uncle, this can't happen. He wouldn't hear a bar of it. My wife had to resign. And she came with me to Darwin. You know, I was not ready to take her to Darwin because house was not ready. Anyway, she didn't mind. She was nice. And while we were in Darwin, her Sri Lankan law degree and thing is not that she had to do accounts and something else. She did, and she got through that and she was admitted there to the bar. And she was doing more some legal work there. And eventually I was going to UK and we went to Cardiff. When she was going to Cardiff, that clerk of the court told Lakshmi, when you go, darling, don't go and do this degrees. Just go to the Grace Inn, attend the Grace Inn and you'll get your barristers. What did Lakshmi do? She went and enrolled to do a doctorate in law in Cardiff. Anyway, that was a long stint. Anyway, she achieved it. In the meantime, we had a son born. Anyway, we had a son born in UK. Is it too long? Shall I cut off? I can. Anyway, eventually we got back, and that's my, wait, I'll tell you. I'll finish this off. That's my daughter and a husband, and that is the mother and the daughter. That's them together. This is when they were young, my son and my daughter, and this is the other one. And this is when I was quite fit in Darwin, running and swimming. That's me. This is what I look like now, and Lakshmi. And those are my grandchildren. That's my grandson, Johan. He's 3.5 years old. And my daughter set a twin, identical twin. And those are Lakshmi's two sisters. She's in New Jersey. She's a psychiatrist there. And the husband is also a psychiatrist. She has now given up and is computing program. That's my wife. And that's the house that I live now. And this is the last thing I kept to the last. That is, I have an aneurysm of the aorta. It extends, can you see, all the way from there to there. It was accidentally diagnosed. And initially, about 18 years ago, it has not given me any trouble so far. Those days I used to go to the little gym. I gave up gym and going to the gym. Normal diameter of the aorta is 25 millimeters. This is 56 to almost 58 millimeter diameter. And you know, when you reach, if you want to take that aneurysm now, that's a mid-sternal split. And that's where you can only reach the anterior part from there. The posterior part goes level of the second pulmonary artery, I think, comes up It's very difficult to do anterior and posterior aspect. But there's a surgeon called George Metlanis. He was happy to do that. But my wife was not very happy. In the meantime, when my daughter qualified as a doctor, she sat for this American exam and got through, and she went to Denton Police Unit and then to New York, at the auntie's place near New Jersey. And she worked in the unit to find out where this could be done. And she phoned me from there. I thought you were just going to experience it. Daddy, can you come? Yeah, I can arrange for you to get this thing done. There are old people at your age are getting it done in States. I said, my Lakshmi was not very happy. So she came back to Australia, and she never broached this getting this surgery done. I am also living with that. There's no problem. But because the aorta is dilated, the valves don't close together. And there's a large incompetence, and heart has to pump against that. So it's not, now I have a lot of dyspnea. Even if I walk about 100 meters, I get, so that's the, otherwise there's no problem, no pain or anything. Yeah, that's the story. That's the story of my life. That's it.
No.
That's it.
Yeah, that was wonderful.
The long
Thank
array.
you. Okay.
There you are.
Okay.
We are back. A good
Yeah,
story.
thanks, Vicky. That was very good.
Excellent. You were very inspiring as well.
We really enjoyed it. You look much handsome those days.
Oh, thank
I
you.
don't know how I missed you.
Ranjit, Ambe,
Yeah,
how are you?
I'm okay.
Cricket, Australia, Sri Lanka lost.
Yes.
Four matches got thrashed.
When were in Darwin, did you come across London recent?
Yes, he was in Alice Springs, ENT.
Yes. Sir.
Yeah, I worked in Alice Springs as a consultant. He was there, that nice guy, you know. I think then he moved out and he went to Sydney, yeah, London prison, yeah. Anil Rajapaksa was, I worked with Anil Rajapaksa when I was in, when I was a ENT HO in Children's Hospital in Colombo. Anil Rajapaksa had come and I used to work with him. And Dr. Vijayasekharan were the ENT boys.
Yes.
We are all quiet today.
Yeah.
Take Vicky, because when you said you are from Central, even Steve studied in the Centralites.
Sorry? You get it?
Steve also studied at Central. Can you
Steve
hear me
who?
now?
Steven.
Yeah, I can.
My husband was a Centralite.
Oh, I see. Well, my father studied at Jaffna Central. That's what he said. I don't know. Royal College was behind. I don't know why he sent us to Jaffna. I don't know. He was a good man. He was very quiet. My dad. Hardly any argument, but I couldn't understand his philosophy.
Vicky, Alice Springs is famous, is very famous for a whole bunch of things. I watched a whole bunch of movies and read about it and stuff like that. Do you know much about it?
It's called the Red. There's a Ayers Rock, just like Sigiriya. We have an Ayers Rock there.
Yes, I know about Ayers Rock.
About 200 km from the city. You know, when you go to Alice Springs, you don't see one vast, brown, bland, hot place. Hot as ever, because it's just a central of the desert. You know, people like that, you know, get that kind of environment and people, there's a small stream or something there. People like this to go all the way there. You know, if you drive from South Australia to Darwin, it's a midpoint, you stop in Alice Springs. It's, I don't know, Saro. People still visit that area because of the peculiar is, you know, Australia's rugged beauty, you know, not that enchanting beauty like Sri Lanka. It's ruggedness of that Sri Lanka Australian thing that excites them. The rugged. Queensland is the more pleasant area to live. Temperature is nice and not cold.
What?
Any other comments or I think Karanian?
No, to eat is good.
Yeah. Vicky, yeah.
Yeah.
You did 20 years of obstetrics without a partner.
You know, I didn't want to interrupt my professional life. No, not 20 years. Not after I left Darwin. While I was Darwin, I got married to her, but I didn't want to interrupt the continuity of my professional life and then put my social life into it, you know. There are a lot of things.
No, when I say partner, someone to cover you in the nights for deliveries.
No, you know, that's terrible, Karania, because I used to ask these senior, just my bosses, you know, I used to ask them, sometimes 4 of us are delivering because they're private, you have to go for delivery.
Yeah.
Virtual, I used to call boy away. You just go and stand there.
Madan, give me 1 second. There's small, you carry on. I'm sorry, I'll come back in a minute. Give me 1
The
second.
patient feels happy because you get up and go. The patient feels happy you are there. They are confused. Yeah, because you are there. But when I asked they were my bosses and their colleagues, can we take in turn and be on call? And I go, oh, you're all right like this. And so we are all up in the night sometime together. It's stupid. Sometimes 3 of us are there, just not doing nothing because we just do delivery.
Yeah, for you.
Hi, Sam.
Yeah. College days. Now
Your voice.
at the college house.
Azim.
College house.
You know, yeah. Pardon?
From college house to Plum, post college house.
You are breaking up. I was in college house. Then college house closed, and then we were shifted to Blum.
That's when we got. That's when we got ragged you and we got kicked out.
You know, there are 3 of us here who were kicked out. Maruf.
We were all kicked
out.
Sam and I. We spent the night on the road by the clock tower.
I felt very sorry. This was all planned, you know. Ahmad was on the scooter outside. If anything like this happened, they were to go to the dean's place of Alex. What's the warden's name? He was the medical thing. Alex, I forget his name. He was on the scooter.
He was a Fernando, right?
No, he was a UMO.
Alas. But the dean came, Pacha came, right?
Ahmad was outside of the scooter. If you did anything, he was to go and report, so he took off. It was all planned. We didn't expect the army, really. I felt sorry. We are all colleagues, not to be thrown out. I felt very sad when that happened. You know.
The Pacha came and kicked us all out. Pacha kicked us all out.
No problem is insoluble.
Sam, your friend Stoddard was annexed in down. Stoddard, you know Stoddard, no?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know whether others know the context of what happened. You know, the 2 hostels, College House and Bloemfontein, were to be merged. When in 1961, there was an old College House, Bloemfontein, which was a single-story one. Then they put up this new one, which is a 3-story, the bright colored rooms and all that. And then they wanted to close College House, which was in Thurston Road, and move all the medical students into Bloemfontein. So the Bloemfontein guys decided that it's a long tradition of the hostel that they should be ragged. And the College House fellow said, we are not freshmen, we are final year students and third year students, you can't be ragged. So there was a major discussion on whether to rag or not to rag. And you remember that we had a meeting at Bloemfontein.
Yeah,
And
yes,
I don't know,
yes.
you remember that Jayatilaka was our president, right? And Karu was our secretary. And we had long meetings and discussions whether we should rag or not rag. Anyway, it was a democracy and the vote took place and I actually voted against the rag, you know. But there were a few people who voted against, many people voted for the rag, so it was decided there should be rag. But then how does 30 people rag 30 people? Or 45 people rag 45 people? So we decided that the ritual of anyone entering should be bathed in that fish pond. There was a fish pond, you know, in the new hospital. And so when the college house fellows, 30 fellows came down, and we insisted that everyone should get into the fish pond before going. And Jayatilaka was at the end of it, you know. So they came and they refused, and some guy tried to push someone here, and the fight broke out. And then the police wasn't called, right? Immediately, within short time, Pachaya came and it all stopped. And then we were all kicked out that night.
That night, we spent the night on the road.
So we went that night and went to the clock tower and stayed there.
We were not happy that it happened that way.
I know,
We are all
it's just
colleagues,
crazy.
Yeah.
Just crazy.
I
I remember while Pachaya came, he was trying to bring peace and talk to everyone. And there was a bucket full of water. And Kandeya, there was a fellow called Kandeya from College House. So he was saying, you know, these guys are still going to duck us because ducking was the thing. He said, sir, there's a bucket of water, they're going to duck us. Okay. So there's a bucket full of water, he said. So Pachaya asked him, what else are buckets meant for? Right. Anyway,
that was good old days, huh?
Good old days. And then Sam and I went to Brody. You remember that, Sam?
That's right. Yes, I do.
Yeah, we went through a rag and.
And Sivalingam also joined us and he did canal dips. Then he pretended that he had a heart attack.
So during my medical career, I went through 4 rags. One was to enter the medical school. One was college house. I was at college house first. And then college house compulsorily forced me to go to Blom. I wanted to stay in college house, but the authorities would not allow. So I had to go at the beginning because they said medical students all have to go. This was before the new building. So when I went to Blom, I had a second rag, a third rag, well, 2 medical school, college house, Bloemfontein. And then I went to Brody, we had a third rag.
They used to, House of Wax, they used to put candle and ask him to sing at the same time. Karnin was singing with a candle wax coming on his back.
And of course, I have to remind about Carnian's Lambretta again. The dad.
Oh, yeah. Karnian
tell the story.
One was mileage for a scooter because half the time Sam was. He said,
Nalin,
and he pushed.
He must give the context, you know. Nalin, we were in Brody, which was a distance. So Nalin had a lovely new scooter. What is it, Lambda, right? Or Vespa. Then I bought a second-hand scooter because it's a long distance to go. My brother gave me money and I bought an old scooter. Half the time it wouldn't start. So, but anyway, half the time it started, and Patrick Chillia and I, there are 4 of us in the batch. Patrick, Sam, Nalin and I. Patrick would come with me. But occasionally the scooter doesn't start. So one day Nalin went to Patrick and Sam was going to come with me. And halfway through the scooter stopped on Buller's Road. So we had to push it. And I had to be in the bike to sort of put the clutch to go. So Sam was pushing. I still know. You tell the story, Sam.
Yeah, and still the darn thing wouldn't start. So I refused to go for lectures. I came back and had a shower. I was sweating so much.
Those good old days.
Yeah.
And they are very precious days. We didn't quite realize it then. So anyone, any other comments or anything? We haven't talked of COVID today. How is COVID? Britain is all opened up, right?
Yeah, Australia borders open.
All open, COVID.
It's only England,
Uh,
Wales, Scotland, and Northern Ireland, they are still having restrictions.
Australia, nothing.
How is Sri Lanka, Sam?
It's all relaxed. I mean, we just get about wherever we want. Nothing is closed. Restaurants are open, hotels are open. A lot of tourists are coming in and the place is crowded. Every hotel we go to is crowded with tourists. There's free movement. Only thing I must say, I'm taking prophylactic. What is the day? Once a week we take the ivermectin. I take a tab 12 milligrams of ivermectin once a week. I don't know whether it'll help, but anyway, it's taking it anyway. So far, touch wood has been okay.
Where are the tourists coming from, Sam? Where exactly are the tourists coming from?
A lot of them are a few British.
Ukraine.
Mainly a lot of Russians are coming. There are a lot of Russian tourists and also Indians. A lot of Indian tourists are coming.
Chinese?
Chinese, I didn't see that many. I mean, we freely go to hotels quite a lot now. Because every place is open. Not that many Chinese, mainly Russians, Indians, and some British and French. So place is really opened up and people are getting about, because there have been quite a few cases, but they have all been, most of them have been mild.
So Sam, how do the hospitals? Do the hospitals have cases of COVID? I mean, are people, that's the only way to find out, huh?
Yeah, there was an increase in the number of inpatients in hospitals, in government as well as in the private hospital. There has been an increase, but they are now coming down relatively fast. So I think the peak is over here. So it's slowly coming down.
Schools are open and, schools are open and the school children, there is no higher incidence or anything?
Yeah, schools are open. Of course, these days they have shut the schools because the A-level exams are going on. But, and also once the A-level exams are over, they are going to reopen the schools. Schools have been functioning. There was a time about two months ago that they shut the schools for a while. But now things are virtually got back to normal now. So we sort of meet,
how about traveling How about traveling with the shortage of fuel?
Well, it varies. In fact, I get my driver to fill when it comes down to 3/4 tank, I get the driver to fill it up regularly. There is a shortage, but if you can get fuel. And of course, the other problem is there are power cuts. There are about 3 to 4 hours. They are cutting power because I think they have run out of furnace oil. They said there is a tanker with all of the furnace oil in the port waiting to discharge the oil, but situation may improve. The problem, I think, is we have not had rain for a good 2 to 3 months. So the reservoirs have most of them are dried up. So hydroelectricity is in short supply. So I think we just carry on. What else to do? Of course, we had worse times when there was a time that we had power cuts for lasting 8-10 hours sometimes, years ago. But today they cut the power for a couple of hours each day.
Sam, just curious. Ivermectin, what is the basis on which you are doing it? Are you a Republican?
Well, I'm basically, the only basis is, for one thing, it's a pretty safe drug. That's one. Second is that it has some antiviral property. That's the second. And also, just going by the fact that they say most of the Africans in the sub-Saharan Africa are on ivermectin for various parasitic infestations. And so generally Africa has less number of patients with COVID. These just, I'm not going by any research that I've done, but up to by what I have read, I thought it's a harmless drug. Why not take it anyway? Just prophylactically 12 milligrams once a week. And if you get the symptoms, take it on a daily basis for 5 days.
So do you have testing facilities there easy?
Sorry?
Are you able to test easily? Testing.
facilities, I test it myself. I brought the kits from UK. I do the antigen test. I do the antigen test once every 3 to 4 days. But I brought several kits from UK. They were giving it out free. So I brought.
But you have vaccinated, no? You have got your triple vaccine, no?
Sorry?
You have got your vaccination, no?
Yes, I had the booster as well before we came. But anyway, I just test myself, especially if I have gone to a crowded place and you know, especially when you go out to eat, you have to take your mask off. So then I sort of test myself when I get back.
But people generally, unless in restaurant, they are masked, is it?
Yeah, you have to wear a mask wherever you go.
All public places, I think they have been asked.
But Sam, one other question. Yeah, one of the things that may come available, which is good to have, is have these new antiviral oral medications.
I think, two of them.
Yeah, but I don't know whether you can get it. In the US, you can't get it unless you have a proven positive case. And then they are still following up and you have to give answers to what's happening. So it's difficult to buy and keep it like, you know, you can buy it. Yeah, but at some point, you may want to consider when you are able, you know, to when it becomes a little more available, have some of those at home. You know,
understand.
Sam, this vitamin D is also helpful against this virus. It doesn't stop the effect of the virus.
Sorry,
Vitamin D, 25,000 units a day helps in the, not the recovery, I think the spread of getting affected by the virus.
You're talking of D3.
Yeah, vitamin D3, yeah.
Yeah,
25,000.
I have been taking D3.
25,000 units.
How much? 25? How frequently?
I have been taking.
How much? 25,000? It's very high.
5,000. 5,000. You have to take 5,000 a day.
I take 4,000 a day.
4,000. Yeah.
2 to 4,000. 2,000 is a safe one. 4,000 you might manage, but 5,000 is on the high side. 25,000 is clearly excessive. When you have vitamin D deficiency.
No, I made a mistake. 5,000. Yeah.
5,000.
It's Carnian. I take 4,000 in K2. I've been taking that.
But you know, 4,000 every other day.
No, daily. And I
take it daily.
Vitamin D levels checked. My vitamin D levels are 54 nanograms.
54 is okay, yeah. But be careful, you know, you don't want it to go to 90 and 100 and all that. It can.
No. But no, 15 months I've been taking the 4,000 with K2. And when I checked, it was 54.
Yeah, that's a good level.
One of the doctors was telling me they did the vitamin D levels in bed dust. They don't take any vitamins, but they're exposed to the sun most of the time. They only wear the amude, and their normal vitamin levels are about 50 nanograms.
Yeah. No, 50 is the 30 is the cutoff for the what they call normal. It's difficult to have normal, what is healthy, what is normal concepts. But 50 is a good level. But I would do your test again in a couple of months just to make sure that it doesn't go too high. Because
it shouldn't do, because I've been taking this for 15 months now.
Yeah.
And I tested only not that long ago, and it was 54.
Because of the melanin pigment, the dark skin chap have low vitamin D. You see, the white chaps who have a lot of vitamin D when they expose to the sun, the colored people have low vitamin D because the melanin pigment cuts off the sun.
Also, we wear clothes.
No, the particular type UV1 and UV1, there are 3 types of UV. That particular thing, it cuts off,
Yeah. The thing is, the white guys in Europe, they don't have the melanin, but they don't have the sun. They don't have the sun.
But white and brown, we all wear clothes.
The ultraviolet, right? You don't need heat. It's a different type of ultraviolet. That's what I said. There are 3 types of ultraviolet rays. That particular ray is only promote the vitamin D. You don't need, not the heat producing one. Ultraviolet doesn't produce heat.
It's interesting, Ola. It'll be interesting to do a little, story of where our batch has spread, starting from our initial gathering 50 odd years ago. One interesting point is I went and looked at our initial photographs. No one smiles in the photographs, right? Why is that?
My own photograph. When I went to medical school.
Karunil, which photograph is that?
When we go there, have you seen the batch photographs? We have individual photographs.
When we were students.
When you were students, when you were entering the
but that is, I think that photograph, you are not supposed to smile now. You get your features, not your grin. That's your ID. That's your ID, not that. So
that's what they say.
Years had to be seen.
UK passport office also they say same thing.
Yeah, you are not supposed to
smile.
Yeah, but I wondered. Okay, that's a good explanation.
How is Maru? What do you think of Sri Lanka now? Maru.
Well, I came last night and and I was asked to check they wanted to check my immunization status. That's all they did. And it was rather relaxed. There was but people were wearing masks. So, house bubbles, they are not wearing masks. Otherwise, outside they are wearing masks.
Yeah. In the US, to travel within US, do you need immunizations? You have to do a negative test. Would anyone know? Sarah, would you know?
Not for domestic travel, because we did go to Washington to see our daughter. Not for domestic, but for Cancun, yes. Not to go, but to come back. They did a PCR test in Mexico. The resort that we stayed at had everything set up for everyone to do the PCR test before you come back to the US. But to go from the US to Cancun, we did not have to take any tests. And domestic travel, no, we did not have to do any tests.
I think PCR is generally necessary. I think when I left Saudi, I had to take a PCR. When I came to Dubai, when I left Dubai to Sri Lanka, I had to take a PCR again. And despite that,
I'm talking a domestic flight within the US.
Yeah. All right.
We went as recently as what, I don't know, December last year, 2021, December, and nothing at all. And actually, as always, we've been having problems with these passengers nowadays, not adhering to the rules and trying to take off their masks and so on. So, one of the flights, I had actually two passengers who were kind of trying to wear their masks just over their mouth and then pulling it down, pulling it up, and kind of playing games with it. So that's been.
I know. It's a very strange phenomenon in the US. I think we need Lawrence or Nisanka to tell us why it is happening. Political affiliation determine whether you wear a mask or not. It's just crazy. It's a very interesting phenomenon as a social phenomenon. But anyway, going forward, we haven't. I'm very grateful for Nisanka. Saro, thank you very much. Would you please tell him that we are looking? That'll be a very interesting talk too. Creativity and madness. next time. And then, if you are still interested, at one point I was doing the endocrine aspects of sexual differentiation. There's of course the whole gender dynamics and gender dysphoria. They are new diseases. They are more psychiatric than but hormones are involved. In Texas, they have brought a horrible law by which you can't give treatment for gender dysphoria. The various hormonal manipulations, which is crazy. But anyway, if you want to, I can give a talk on that. If you are, man, what is the boy, what is the girl, what is the man, what is the woman, where are is it just black and white, or is it the whole spectrum? And at every level, there are sort of quotes unquote ambiguities or mixtures. If you want me to talk on that, I can.
Yeah, well, let's
That's a good subject, actually.
That's a very interesting, because very few people know. Certainly.
Yeah, it'll be very good. Maybe for April.
Yeah.
So we have a list of things. I think
April, I'll do that. I'll have to get the thing. I saw a whole bunch of stuff from ambiguous genitalia to all kinds of different mixtures and matches, testicular feminizing syndrome. The interesting stuff. The physiology of it is fascinating. Anyway, I'll try and get up something interesting for you on that to keep it going. Now we need few more talks, but we'll figure it out. And if you have any ideas, please tell us. Sam, can you tell us something? Your life in Sri Lanka, or how to live a...
I'm only here for
keep hair on your head. What's that?
I'm only here for 3 to 4 months. I can't give a long talk. I can tell you something. Well, we can combine it with your talk. Towards the end of your talk, I can say a few things of what we have been up to.
Okay. My talk will take about 30-45 minutes if I get into that. It's a very big subject, but I'll try and make it thing.
Yeah.
Koda, tell me about you. You have the most interesting philosophical life amongst all of us. Yeah, I remember talking with you as medical students. Can you give a little talk on something very?
Only thing is, I don't have this mechanical things I can, make. I only just to start and speak without any arrangement.
Yeah, that's all right. Give us a little about your life philosophy. You are a wonderful guy. I remember chatting with you in medical school. Very philosophical.
the philosophy of life.
I think so, yes.
Good.
And your paintings also.
That's my hobby.
I'm going to make use of this week of my presence in Sri Lanka. I managed to get through Subba and various. Yeah. Sam.
I wish Lalita can give us a talk about.
I talked to her. She said she'll come, but unfortunately she has turned up. She's not answering my calls. But I said that we are going to meet together. I have a hybrid meeting. A hybrid meeting is some of us get together, and the rest of you all can join, and I will announce it. So if I manage to get a day, and Lalita was keen on that, so I will meet up with her, and I'll catch up with Sam also. Sam, hello. Yeah, I will call you, Sam. Yeah, we'll talk, and then we'll set up this hybrid meeting with you, me, Nalin, and
Did you talk to Mary?
Okay, and so I think we should have a meeting and then get whoever is available online. They could come, and I can use my computer wherever it is, as long as there is a reasonable bandwidth I have, and then we can have a meeting so that this shouldn't be missed, because I think now that you and I are here, let's get the guys together in one day in some house, or even in a hotel, Taprabane, for example, that we had last time. Yeah, okay. So it's a Sam on the phone. He said that he had to leave because he had some visitors. I think I will try to arrange within this week at least one day that we can all catch up
we
with
can
each other.
join. Some of us
Right.
can join. See, if it is 8 o'clock in the night, there only Australians will have difficulty. Or 7
Yeah.
o'clock in the morning. Yeah.
No, we can have the same current thing, and only Don, I'll try to catch up with you and ask him whether he can join it early hours of the morning. Then we'll see.
How long are you there for, Maruf?
Until the 8th of
March?
yeah, just about a week. 8th of March. So 8th night I'm leaving. So I will try to catch up with. I managed to get. I made a list here, which with the help of Ranjit, there is about 12 people here. But I think I will also get some people hiding in London, like Staninalaya, Tilevasan, Sachidanandan.
Yeah, it's wonderful if you can get those guys there.
What about Abesiri?
And what about
Abesiri?
LU Abesiri?
what about Milroy and all? They are don't be coming now.
Yeah, Milroy. I'll tell Milroy. Milroy and Stanley are in my neighborhood. I'll tell Stanley.
Where is Abesiri? Abesiri is in Sri Lanka, is it?
LU Abesiri is in London. I'd love to get in touch with him. Does anyone have his contact? LU Abesiri.
Gauri, you have any idea? Kodda, you have any idea where Abesiri is?
I think I may be able to ring him. I mean, I'll try to.
Call me at any time if you want, and I will stay as an anchor for getting our chaps together.
Can he, I really, how is Abesiri Gunawanda doing?
Yeah, he feels much better. I got a letter from him. Sorry, Saru must be knowing well. Sorry, Saru, you carry on.
No. Go ahead, say what, and I'll follow up.
No, he sent me an email accidentally, and he said, I'm much better now. The blood transfusions are less and something. He said, he feels he's better, I thought. You carry on, Saru.
Yeah, actually something else has happened now. Kirti is not well at all, unfortunately. So, yeah, it was some really weird thing that happened with her lungs, and then she couldn't breathe, and she went in, and then she had steroid kind of psychosis thing that's kind of going on. So all kinds of something, I think that was not quite even expected there. So they are going through really a rough time at the moment. The only good thing is they moved in with their daughter. And so they are with their daughter.
You are not joining
the same house. No? And so they are being looked after well, and there's a lot of care around them. Both daughters, the other daughter lives close to them as well. So they are kind of being taken care of in that sense. But things are not too good over there in that, unfortunately.
I talked to him, I think, twice. And then about 3 or 4 weeks ago, just on spec, I called him and there was no response. There was no reply, and I didn't call back again.
How is Mohanlal? How is Mohanlal?
Mohanlal, I don't know what happened. Usually he joins. Narada, of course, he excused, There's another person I want to report about. Subba. Subba is, I talked to Subba today because Ranjit gave me the number, and he has been having lung cancer for 3 years, and he's treated. He's reasonably well at this moment. And he, unfortunately, his technology doesn't allow him to come on line. So he's watching us on the YouTube right now. So he said, I watch all.
Hi, who is this?
Subha Singha.
Subha Singha. Yeah.
And Vijita is over there too, right? So Vijita, Lal.
Lal, I tried to contact him. I couldn't. I was not successful.
And what about Mary?
Mary also no answer. And I know her home. I don't know whether she is in the US or something like that with the children.
No, she's in Sri Lanka. I have emailed her often.
I probably will go with either Sam or somebody to Lalita's place, and Mary's house is close there. So, and I'll try to meet with her because I called her land phone, and I called her. In fact, 1 week ago, Mary has called Lalita, and then she has two mobile numbers. And the second mobile number is the one on which she's on the WhatsApp. So I called her, both numbers, no answer.
If you can get, there is Nicitas Fernando in Northern California. Lots of guys, if you can just get them once and have a
Karan, you should get all the American people's list and then try to work on them.
Koneswaran. Yeah, we'll have to work on
You can work on the Sri Lankan and group, and Nelum was there in, she joined one, did she? In Australia.
Nelu is in Melbourne.
Yeah.
Nelun also has, I think Benita also knows maybe, but Nelun has a little bit of problems remembering things sometimes. So she's very pleasant when you speak with her and all of that. But I don't know whether she kind of remembers to join in and things like that.
What I can do is I make a list. I have somebody typing who can help my nephews here. So I'll make a list. I will make a list with the telephone numbers that I have and the email addresses. And there are some email addresses which are bouncing. So I'll put that also into the list. So I'll pass it to all of you. Then you can, whoever can help and who know the particular person, then try to get me more information so we can consolidate the information.
Because I think Jupiter and Soma Munamale, they are on the Facebook with me.
Oh.
Jupiter Munamale. He comes up, but doesn't seem to join. In Kurnagalite.
They're in Kurunagala, is it?
Yeah.
And Chularatne is in Kurunagala.
Yeah, I called Chularatne.
Chula came for the previous meeting, yeah.
Previous meeting, but today I called and he didn't answer. So I will get in touch with him also. So this is how we have to sort of act in multiple ways and then get people together and increase the number. If you can reach it to up to about 50 or 60 people, then it'll be very interesting. Good. We'll try. I will try my best.
But now Larita is not living in Kolpiti. She is living in Tarvatagod, I think.
She's what?
She's not next to.
Larita is not in Kolpiti.
She's not in Kolpiti now.
She's living
I can ask her. I called her just now also and told her that you're online, and then she said okay, and then didn't come up.
But she's not there. She has moved with the children outside.
Right, okay.
Benita?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Benita? Which
I
part
can
of
hear you,
Sydney,
Ranjit.
in which part of Sydney do you live?
Pardon?
In which part of Sydney do you live?
Yes, it's Sydney. North, yeah.
Because Ranjit is coming to Australia.
Yeah, lovely, no? When are
Tomorrow.
you?
Tomorrow.
I will be there tomorrow, day after.
Oh, really?
So where are you at the moment? Airport?
Sri Lanka.
No, not yet.
No, he's in Sri Lanka.
No, because
Which part of Sydney are you going to be?
In some place called Colby.
Guys, I have to excuse myself.
Yeah.
I have solar power, and the solar power, there's some problem, and the company has come to repair it, so I have to go. In California, we have a lot of solar power. That's how we electrify our home. Chicago doesn't have. Does Chicago have a lot of?
No, it's hard because the days there are so many months that are sort of overcast and cloudy and or else covered by snow and stuff like that. So I don't know. I think some people are trying various things, but not us anyway.
Australia is up in that, right? You guys are doing a lot of it, right?
Yep.
No,
I don't pay anything
at the
for my
moment,
gas.
lot of rain.
I met this,
So very drenching. Rain.
guys, I want to tell you about this guy I met yesterday, and I was in his going through his various physiological and physical things that he is doing with negative ions and devices that he has developed. About 40 over devices he has developed. He has been recording them. He is doing research. He's a deputy minister of health of UAE. and he is spent about $50 million on this whole project. So I told him that I will set up a meeting between us and him, and he's very interested to bring his things over and prove more and more of some of the things that he's doing. For example, he gave me a pouch. He called Energizer pouch. You pass it over water, and the water gets energized, and you can drink that. I don't know how it works, but he says he has scientific proof. He's a surgeon. He was a Surgeon General of Dubai. He's an allopathic doctor.
Maruf, I'm going to leave. Excuse me. Thank you, folks. We'll meet on March 26th, and we'll have Dr. Nisarg.
The next meeting is on March 26th, the regular meeting.
April, I'll talk.
We may have a hybrid meeting if I succeed in getting the Sri Lankan guys across. Excepting I'm going to miss Ranjit because he's on the way to Sydney.
Okay, all right. Okay, take care. Ranjit, have a safe trip.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Maru. Thank you, Karvin.
Okay.
Yes. So, is there anything with the war that's coming on? Will there be any change?
Ukraine. I think it might. You see, Putin has said that he will. One of my nephews who lives in Dubai, his family is there. He married a Ukraine girl, and then Putin has said that I will, as long as the West keeps away, Ukraine will be my friend and my neighbor. If the West comes in, I will take over whole of Ukraine, and I will stand beyond them to face them. So it's not going to be a big war, but it seems to be. I know.
Will the Ukraine fellows accept Russia as or what?
Apparently,
will the war spill over and we all have Sri Lanka will have another.
Yeah, they are in a very similar state like ours here in Sri Lanka. Because there is somebody who is there who doesn't understand the basics of how they need to exist with the neighbors, and they are trying to join hands with the West. The West are last minute they have left them down, and today they are sending machine guns and things like that which don't work anymore. The war is now ballistic missiles and things like that. So it's not an easy thing because it's unfortunate. The people are going to suffer to some extent, mainly by shortage and things like that. I hope and wish that no major war erupts in Ukraine, and I don't think so. They are all most of them are defensive, even the West. There is a lot of politics in this, but we are scientists.
Will there be a ripple effect for Sri Lanka or this one on this?
Sri Lanka, at the moment, it seems to be in a status quo, accepting that things are shortage of petrol, shortage of this, shortage of that. It's still continuing.
People are happy. They are not. Nobody is grumbling or nobody is talking.
They are grumbling, but they are grumbling within themselves. That doesn't work.
Yeah. Anyway.
Okay. Good luck.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll try to arrange the hybrid meeting and inform you all, because all those who are here, I think you have access on WhatsApp, so I can inform you. And thanks for coming, all of you.
Yeah, thanks, Vicky. Thanks.
We keep going.
Yeah, Maru and Karunian for organizing all those. Thank you.
All the best to you.
Okay, all the best. We see you.
You on YouTube. Anytime you want to review some of these discussions, you can always go to YouTube.
Yeah.
Worldwide Slimofamily and worldwide meeting. So monthly meeting worldwide WW monthly meeting, and then you will get the rest of it. You can choose.
All the best. Thanks, Manu. Thank you.